The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute professional financial, legal, or career advice. While the strategies discussed are based on historical trends and documented case studies of successful scholarship applicants, individual results may vary based on personal qualifications, application quality, and the specific criteria of awarding bodies. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence, verify the legitimacy of any third-party website, and consult with a certified financial aid counselor or academic advisor before sharing personal information or making significant financial decisions. The creator of this content is not responsible for any potential outcomes resulting from the use of this information. Most of you are approaching the college debt crisis with a fundamental misunderstanding of how the American education system actually functions. You have been conditioned to believe that there are only two paths to a debt-free degree. Either you are a once-in-a-generation athletic prodigy with a full-ride scholarship to a D1 school, or you are a valedictorian with a perfect 1600 SAT score and a resume that includes founding a nonprofit by age 16. This narrative is not just discouraging, it is mathematically incomplete. Right now, as you watch this, there are hundreds of millions of dollars in private and institutional scholarship funds that go completely unawarded every single year. These are not just small one-time stipends for textbooks. We are talking about five-figure awards that could bridge the gap between a lifetime of predatory interest rates and a clear path to financial independence. The shocking reality is that the average student spends more time scrolling through social media in a single weekend than they do researching the very funds that could save them $40,000 or more in future debt. We have reached a point where the middle-class trap is real. If you are too wealthy to qualify for significant federal Pell Grants, but not wealthy enough to write a check for $80,000 a year at a private university, you are the prime target for the student loan industry. But there is a hidden infrastructure of legitimate, non-predatory scholarships that most people never find because they are looking in the wrong places, using the wrong keywords, and falling for the same data mining trap set by companies that want to sell your email address to the highest bidder. This video is not a quick fix guide. This is part 1 of a 10-part deep dive masterclass designed to deconstruct the scholarship landscape in the United States. Today, we are solving the fundamental problem of access and legitimacy. We are going to break down why the current system is designed to make you fail, how to distinguish a data collection scheme from a genuine foundation, and the precise methodology used by the top 1% of applicants who graduate debt-free without having a 4.0 GPA. If you feel like the system is rigged against you, you are right. But once you understand the rules of the game, you can start making the system work for your benefit. To understand where to find these funds, we first have to look at the historical trends of educational funding in the United States. Over the last 30 years, the cost of attendance at public four-year institutions has increased by nearly 180% when adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, the maximum Pell Grant Award, the primary source of federal aid for low-income students, has failed to keep pace with these costs. This gap has created a vacuum that is currently being filled by private debt. However, a secondary, parallel market exists, the private scholarship sector. According to historical data from the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Study, roughly 7% of all undergraduates receive private scholarships, with an average award of around $4,000. While that might sound small, the compounding effect of winning multiple niche awards is the secret weapon of the debt-free student. The problem isn't that the money doesn't exist. The problem is the noise-to-signal ratio. When you search for scholarships online, the first page of search results is usually dominated by "No essay sweepstakes." These are not scholarships. They are lead generation tools. Every time you enter a $2,000 random draw scholarship that only requires your name and email, you aren't applying for aid. You are consenting to have your data sold to private lenders, marketing firms, and for-profit colleges. In this masterclass, we are stripping away the noise. We are going to look at actual case studies of students who targeted high-friction scholarships, awards that require effort, essays, and verification, because that is where the competition drops off and the legitimacy increases. Consider the case of a student we will call Marcus. Marcus was a B-average student with a 3.1 GPA. He didn't qualify for merit aid from his university, and his family's income was just high enough to disqualify him from significant federal grants. Instead of giving up, Marcus ignored the big-name national scholarships that get 100,000 applications. He focused on ultra-niche identifiers: his heritage, his local civic organizations, and specific professional associations related to his major in civil engineering. By targeting scholarships with a high barrier to entry, specifically those requiring a 500-word technical essay, he was competing against 50 people instead of 50,000. Potential outcomes for students like Marcus don't just include a check for tuition. They include networking opportunities with the very organizations that will eventually hire them. In this series, we are going to dive deep into the specific databases that are vetted for security, the government-backed tools that are often overlooked, and the hidden local layer of scholarships that never even make it to a Google search result. We will discuss why your local chamber of commerce or your parent's employer might be holding a $5,000 check with your name on it, and why the big websites like FastWeb or CapEx require a very specific strategy to use effectively without being buried in spam. We are also going to address the GPA myth. There is a historical trend in scholarship awarding where organizations are moving away from raw academic data and moving toward impact metrics. Foundations are increasingly looking for students who demonstrate resilience, community involvement, or specific vocational interests. For example, the Tall Club International Scholarship or the Left-Handed Scholarship are famous examples, but they represent a broader reality. There is a scholarship for almost every unique human trait. The difficulty is not in being good enough for the money. The difficulty is in the navigation of the digital landscape to find the intersection between your unique profile and a foundation-specific mission. By the end of this 10-part series, you will have a comprehensive step-by-step roadmap. You will know exactly how to set up a scholarship command center, how to automate your search without getting scammed, and how to write a master essay that can be adapted for dozens of different applications. We are moving beyond the surface-level advice you find in high school guidance offices. This is about professional-grade research and execution. We are starting with the foundation of legitimacy because if you are looking in the wrong place, it doesn't matter how good your application is. You cannot win a race if you are running in the wrong direction. We are going to fix your direction, refine your strategy, and give you the tools to reclaim your financial future. Let's begin with the first pillar of a legitimate search, understanding the difference between an aggregator and a provider. To navigate the complex world of educational funding in 2026, you must first master the distinction between a scholarship aggregator and a scholarship provider. Think of an aggregator like a massive digital library or a search engine specifically tuned for financial aid. Websites like Big Future by the College Board, FastWeb, and Scholarship.com are the primary examples of aggregators. These platforms do not actually own the money they list. They are databases that collect information from thousands of different sources and present them in a searchable format. While these tools are essential for discovery, they are also the primary hunting grounds for data brokers. Historical trends show that for every one legitimate scholarship found on a major aggregator, a student may be exposed to 5 or more lead generation advertisements disguised as scholarship opportunities. Imagine a student named Alex in 2026. Alex is a high school senior in Ohio looking for ways to fund a degree in environmental science. Alex goes to a popular aggregator and creates a profile. Within minutes, Alex is matched with 300 potential scholarships. This feels like a victory, but this is where the hidden friction begins. Many of these matches are actually sweepstakes where the potential outcomes are statistically lower than winning a state lottery. Alex spends hours filling out short forms for $2,000 awards that require no essay and no letters of recommendation. 3 months later, Alex has received 0 scholarship dollars, but has received 500 emails from for-profit colleges and private loan companies. Alex fell into the aggregator trap by treating the database as the end of the journey rather than the beginning. The scholarship provider, on the other hand, is the source. This is the entity that actually holds the funds, sets the criteria, and writes the check. Providers can be massive philanthropic organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, corporate giants like Google or Coca-Cola, or small community organizations like a local Rotary Club or a regional credit union. In 2026, the most successful applicants are those who use aggregators only to identify the name of a provider, and then immediately leave the aggregator site to find the provider's official, primary domain. This is the first step in the 2026 verification protocol. When you find an interesting listing on a search site, do not click the Apply Now button if it keeps you within the aggregator's ecosystem. Instead, open a new browser tab and search for the specific name of the foundation or corporation followed by the word scholarship and the current year. This direct-to-source method bypasses the marketing filters that often clutter the application process. Case studies of students who successfully secured over $50,000 in private aid show a consistent pattern. They spent 20% of their time on aggregators and 80% of their time on the official websites of the providers. This is because providers often include critical details on their own sites that aggregators miss, such as updated deadlines, specific essay prompts that changed at the last minute, or additional documents required for verification. Furthermore, applying directly through a provider's portal often ensures your data is handled under their specific privacy policy, rather than being funneled through a third-party marketing engine. To understand why this distinction matters so much in the current year, we have to look at the economic model of the modern scholarship search engine. Most free scholarship databases make their money through lead generation. They are paid by universities and loan providers to deliver the contact information of students who are actively looking for money. This is not inherently illegal, but it creates a conflict of interest. The aggregator is incentivized to keep you on their site clicking as many links as possible, regardless of whether those links lead to legitimate educational grants or high-interest private debt. By shifting your focus to the providers, you are effectively cutting out the middleman and engaging with the people who actually want to invest in your future. Consider another case study involving a student named Jordan. Jordan is a returning adult student in 2026 pursuing a mid-career shift into nursing. Jordan avoids the massive national aggregators entirely and instead looks for professional associations in the healthcare field. Jordan finds the American Association of Colleges of Nursing. This is a provider. On their official website, Jordan finds a list of highly specific grants for students in accelerated programs. Because these are not widely advertised on the front page of major search engines, the applicant pool is significantly smaller. Jordan's potential outcomes improved not because of a higher GPA, but because Jordan accessed a provider-level niche that was invisible to the average searcher. When you are assessing a provider's website, there are 3 specific markers of legitimacy you must look for in 2026. First is the existence of a clear 501c3 status or a corporate social responsibility page. Legitimate scholarship providers in the United States are almost always registered nonprofits or established corporations. If a website offering a scholarship does not have an About Us page that lists a physical address in the U.S. and a clear mission statement, it should be treated with extreme caution. Second, look for the historical record of past winners. Legitimate providers take pride in their scholars. They will often have a page dedicated to previous award recipients, including their names, their schools, and sometimes the projects or essays that won them the award. If a site claims to have given out millions of dollars but has no archive of past winners, you are likely looking at a data harvesting front. Third, verify the contact information. In a deep dive analysis of scholarship fraud, researchers found that nearly 90% of fraudulent scholarship sites use generic contact forms without a matching email address or phone number. A legitimate provider will have a professional domain, such as @foundation.org or @corporation.com. They will not use a free email service like Gmail or Yahoo to communicate with applicants. This level of scrutiny is your primary defense against the rising tide of AI-generated scholarship scams that have become more prevalent in 2026. These scams often mirror the look of legitimate foundations, but are designed to steal social security numbers or banking information under the guise of a scholarship application. Imagine if you treated your scholarship search like a detective investigation rather than a shopping trip. Instead of looking for the easiest money, you are looking for the most verifiable money. You start by using a tool like the Department of Labor's Career One-Stop Scholarship Finder, which is a government-vetted aggregator. You find a listing for a Community Leadership Award. Instead of clicking through, you note that the provider is the Junior Chamber International. You go to their specific regional website, find their scholarship chair's contact information, and send a polite email asking if the 2026 application cycle has any new requirements. This single act of reaching out to a provider changes your status from an anonymous data point in a database to a proactive, real-world candidate. This transition from being a passive consumer of aggregators to an active researcher of providers is the most significant hurdle for most students. It requires more work, more tabs open on your screen, and more careful reading of fine print. However, the data suggests that this effort pays off. Students who apply to 10 high-quality, verified provider scholarships have a statistically higher chance of receiving funding than students who apply to 100 low-quality sweepstakes on an aggregator site. The goal is to move your application to the top of a small, legitimate pile rather than burying it at the bottom of a massive, automated one. But even after you have identified a legitimate provider, there is another layer to this system that most people completely miss. There is a specific way that these organizations categorize their funds that can give you a massive advantage if you know how to read their internal language. Many students look for general scholarships, but the real money is often hidden in restricted funds that are only unlocked under very specific conditions. As we move forward, we need to talk about the hidden architecture of these providers. Why do some organizations have millions of dollars sitting in accounts that nobody applies for? And more importantly, how do you find the specific documents that these providers use to grade your application before you even write your first word? In the next part, we are going to expose the hidden local layer of the scholarship world, the place where the internet barely reaches and where the competition is almost zero. This is where we find the organizations that are actually struggling to find students to give their money to, and I will show you exactly how to find their physical offices in your own backyard. The hidden local layer is the most undervalued asset in the 2026 scholarship landscape because it relies on geographical scarcity rather than academic perfection. When you apply for a national scholarship from a major brand, you are competing with every high-achieving student across 50 states. However, when you target a scholarship that is restricted to a single county, a single zip code, or even a specific high school, the competitive pool shrinks from hundreds of thousands to perhaps a few dozen. This is what we call the blue ocean of educational funding. Historical trends show that local organizations often struggle to find enough qualified applicants simply because their digital footprint is negligible. While the big-name foundations are overwhelmed with applications, your local community foundation might be sitting on a trust fund established 40 years ago that is legally required to distribute money annually, yet they receive fewer than 10 applications per cycle. Imagine a student named Chloe in 2026, living in a mid-sized city like Charlotte, North Carolina. Chloe has a 3.3 GPA and solid but not extraordinary extracurriculars. She knows she won't win a National Merit Award, so she pivots her entire strategy to the local layer. She starts by identifying the primary community foundation in her region. In the United States, community foundations are nonprofit organizations that manage hundreds of individual donor-advised funds. One single community foundation might oversee 50 different scholarship funds, each with its own niche criteria. One for students interested in nursing, one for descendants of local textile workers, and another for students who have participated in a specific youth soccer league. By submitting one master application to the Foundation for the Carolinas, Chloe is automatically considered for every fund within their system that matches her profile. This is the ultimate efficiency play. The first step in your 2026 local search is to visit the Council on Foundations website and use their locator tool to find every community foundation within a 50-mile radius of your home address. Do not limit yourself to just the one in your immediate city. Many regional foundations cover multiple surrounding counties. Once you have a list, you are not just going to browse their website. You are going to look for their annual report or their 990 tax filing, which is public record. These documents list exactly how much money was given out the previous year, and often specify which funds had no recipients. If you see a fund that hasn't awarded money in 2 years, that is a massive signal that the criteria are either very specific or the fund is poorly advertised. This is where you reach out to the scholarship coordinator directly. A professional brief email asking for the 2026 requirements for a specific, obscure fund can often lead to a direct invitation to apply. Beyond community foundations, you must look at civic and fraternal organizations. Groups like the Elks Lodge, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, and the Kiwanis are cornerstones of American philanthropy. These organizations are often run by older generations who prioritize community service and character over raw test scores. The Elks National Foundation, for instance, has a historical trend of awarding millions through their most valuable student contest, but the initial rounds are judged at the local lodge level. If you live in a town where the local lodge has only 20 active members, your chances of advancing to the district and state levels are significantly higher than if you were applying in a high-density urban center. In 2026, many of these lodges still use paper applications or PDF forms that must be mailed or hand-delivered. This high-friction requirement acts as a natural filter. Most students in the current year will skip any application that isn't a one-click mobile process. By doing the manual work of printing, signing, and delivering a physical folder, you are already in the top 5% of applicants. Consider the case study of David, a student in 2026 from a rural part of Georgia. David spent a Saturday driving to 3 different local organizations: the Farm Bureau, the local electric co-op, and a veterans organization where his grandfather was a member. None of these scholarships were listed on major aggregators like FastWeb. The electric co-op scholarship, in particular, was only available to the children of people who were customers of that specific utility provider. Because David's town was small, there were only 6 other applicants. Potential outcomes for David included a $1,500 check from the co-op and a $1,000 award from the Farm Bureau. While these aren't full-ride scholarships, they are stackable. By the time David finished his local circuit, he had secured $6,500 in aid before even looking at his university's financial aid package. Another critical component of the local layer is professional associations. Almost every career path has a regional or state-level association. If you are going into accounting, look for the Georgia Society of CPAs. If you are going into architecture, look for the local chapter of the American Institute of Architects. These organizations are deeply invested in the future of their profession. They want to ensure that students from their own state are entering the field. In 2026, these groups are increasingly offering bridge grants to help students cover the gap between their tuition and their actual cost of living. To find these, use a specific search string: your state name plus your intended major plus professional association scholarship. This will lead you to websites that are often poorly optimized for search engines, but rich with specialized funding. We also have to discuss the employer-based scholarship, which is often hiding in plain sight. Many students check their own place of employment, like a local grocery store or fast food franchise, but they forget to check their parents' or guardians' employers. Large corporations like UPS, Starbucks, and Walmart have well-known programs, but mid-sized regional companies often have scholarship programs for the children of their employees that are underutilized. Case studies show that many human resources departments don't even promote these internally unless someone asks. If your parent works for a local manufacturing plant or a regional hospital system, have them ask the HR department for a copy of the Employee Benefits Handbook specifically looking for educational assistance or dependent scholarships. In 2026, these are often treated as tax-deductible fringe benefits for the company, meaning they are incentivized to give the money away. Lastly, do not overlook the religious and heritage-based organizations in your backyard. Whether it is a local Jewish community center, a Knights of Columbus chapter, or a heritage society for people of Italian or Polish descent, these groups exist to preserve and support their community. They often have small, named scholarships established in memory of local members. These are the ultimate high-friction, low-competition awards. They might only be $500, but they are often renewable for all 4 years of college. A $500 renewable scholarship is worth $2,000 over the course of your degree, and it often comes with a local mentor who can provide career networking later on. The strategy for the local layer is simple but rigorous. You must move from the screen to the street. You need to look at physical bulletin boards in public libraries, ask the secretary at your local house of worship, and read the local weekly newspaper. These are the places where the 2026 digital noise hasn't reached. By identifying these physical offices and local stakeholders, you are building a defensive moat around your scholarship strategy that national-level competitors cannot touch. But once you have cleared out the local opportunities, you need to go back to the digital world with a level of precision that most people don't even know is possible. There is a way to use Google that bypasses the advertisements and the scams entirely, taking you directly to the hidden PDF files and server directories where the real applications are stored. In the next part, I am going to teach you the advanced digital dorking techniques that professional researchers use to find scholarships that are literally hidden from the public eye. We are going to break down the exact search strings that will reveal thousands of private application forms that will never show up in a standard search. The technique we are about to employ is known in the cybersecurity world as Google dorking, but for our purposes, we are repurposing it into a high-precision scholarship extraction tool. Most students treat the Google search bar like a magic wishing well, typing in generic phrases like scholarships for college, and then sifting through pages of advertisements. In 2026, that approach is a recipe for digital fatigue. Instead, you need to use advanced search operators to bypass the marketing algorithms and speak directly to the servers where scholarship committees store their documentation. The first and most powerful operator in your arsenal is the file type command. When a legitimate organization, such as a local foundation or a university department, creates a scholarship application, they almost never build it as a web page. Instead, they create a document, usually a PDF or a Word file, and upload it to their server. By using the string scholarship file type, PDF followed by your specific criteria, you are telling Google to ignore every blog post, every advertisement, and every listicle, and only show you actual, viewable documents. For example, if you are a student in 2026 looking for engineering funding in Michigan, your search string would look like this: Michigan Engineering Scholarship 2026 file type, PDF. This search bypasses the aggregators and takes you straight to the source material. You might find a PDF hosted on a municipal server or a local chapter of a professional engineering society that hasn't updated its homepage in years, but has quietly uploaded its 2026 application form. Let us look at a case study involving a student named Sophia in 2026. Sophia was a biology major with a specific interest in marine conservation. When she searched normally, she found the same 5 national scholarships that everyone else was applying for. Then she applied the file type, PDF operator combined with site.gov. This second operator, site.gov, restricts results only to official government websites. Her new search string was Marine Biology Scholarship site.gov file type, PDF. This led her to an obscure research grant offered by a state-level Department of Natural Resources. Because this grant was buried deep within a government server directory, it did not appear on the first page of a standard search. Sophia found a 10-page application that required a detailed research proposal. Historically, these types of high-effort, government-hosted grants have significantly lower applicant pools because they are difficult to find and even more difficult to complete. The potential outcomes for Sophia included a $4,000 stipend and a summer internship that would have been invisible to her peers. The next operator you must master is the site.edu filter. Universities are some of the largest scholarship providers in the United States, but many of their departmental scholarships are not well advertised to the general public. They are often hidden on internal pages intended for current students. By using a search string like site.edu scholarship nursing 2026, you are peering into the financial aid directories of thousands of colleges simultaneously. You can narrow this down further by searching for specific regions, such as site*.tx or site.edu Texas Scholarship. This allows you to find scholarships offered by specific university departments that might be open to incoming freshmen, but are not featured on the main financial aid landing page. One of the most effective ways to find hidden money in 2026 is the inaural operator. This allows you to search for words that appear in the website's address itself. Many organizations categorize their scholarships in a subdirectory called uploads or forms. A search string like inaural, scholarship inaural, 2026 application file type, PDF will reveal documents that are literally sitting in the file folders of websites across the country. This is how you find the diamond in the rough. Imagine if you are looking for a scholarship for students of a certain heritage. You could use the string inaural, Scholarship Irish American 2026. This often bypasses the splash pages and takes you directly to the application instructions. Now, let us talk about the negative filter, which is arguably more important than the positive search terms. To clean up your results, you must use the minus sign to exclude the noise. In 2026, your search string should almost always end with sweepstakes no easy. By adding these negative keywords, you are instructing Google to remove the low-quality lead magnets we discussed in previous parts. A refined professional search string would look like this: Civil Engineering Scholarship 2026 file type, PDF sweepstakes no essay. This ensures that every result on your screen is a high-value, legitimate opportunity that requires actual work to complete. Consider the scenario of a student named Liam, who is a first-generation college student in 2026. Liam is using these techniques to find funding for a vocational program in renewable energy. He uses a combination of operators, site.org Renewable Energy Scholarship 2026 sweepstakes. This search leads him to a regional nonprofit foundation dedicated to green energy. On their site, he finds a PDF application for a scholarship that specifically targets students in his zip code. The historical trends for this specific foundation showed that they often had to roll over funds to the next year, because they didn't receive enough qualified applicants who met the local residency requirement. Because Liam used a surgical search rather than a broad one, he found a fund where his chance of selection was statistically much higher than a national award. Another advanced technique is searching for index of directories. This is a bit more technical but can be incredibly rewarding. When a website is not properly configured, you can sometimes see the raw list of files on their server. By searching for entitle, index.of scholarship 2026, you might find a directory containing dozens of PDF applications, past winner reports, and internal rubrics used by the committee. While you should never attempt to access private or password-protected data, many organizations leave their public scholarship folders open to indexing. Reading the rubrics or the reports from previous years can give you a massive advantage, as you can see exactly what the committee valued in past successful candidates. Imagine if you spent just 1 hour a week performing these deep dive searches. Instead of looking at the same lists that millions of other students are looking at, you are building your own proprietary list of high-quality leads. You are looking at the PDF files that were uploaded 3 days ago. You are finding the department-level grants that only have 10 applicants. You are essentially using the internet as a professional intelligence officer would, rather than as a casual consumer. But even with the best search strings, you will eventually run into a problem: the sheer volume of data. In 2026, information is not the problem. Organization is. If you find 50 high-quality PDFs, how do you track the deadlines? How do you ensure you aren't missing a secondary document? And how do you protect your computer from the rare but present danger of malicious files disguised as scholarship forms? We have to discuss the security layer of your search. You need a sandbox environment to vet these documents before you ever put your real personal information on them. As we move into the next phase of this masterclass, we are going to transition from finding the money to qualifying the money. Just because you found a PDF on a server doesn't mean the organization is still active or that the fund is still solvent. There is a specific verification process involving tax records and corporate filings that will tell you if a scholarship is a waste of your time or a golden opportunity. In the next part, I will show you how to use the IRS tax-exempt organization search tool and state-level business registries to verify that a scholarship provider is not only legitimate, but has the actual liquidity to pay out your award. We are going to learn how to read a nonprofit's financial health in under 60 seconds, ensuring that every hour you spend on an application is an hour spent on a real funded opportunity. But before we get to the tax records, there is one more digital trick you need to know about your own digital footprint, because in 2026, the Scholarship Committee is searching for you just as hard as you are searching for them. Do you know what they see when they type your name into these same search strings? We are about to find out. In the digital landscape of 2026, the application process is a two-way mirror. While you are using advanced search operators to find the providers, the scholarship committees are using those same tools to audit you. This is the reality of the 2026 scholarship ecosystem. Your digital footprint is your unofficial transcript. Before you even submit a PDF or hit a send button, a member of the selection committee has likely entered your name into a search engine. They are looking for consistency, character, and professional alignment. Historical trends in scholarship selection show that committees are increasingly moving away from purely academic metrics and toward holistic vetting. They want to know if the person described in a 500-word essay matches the person who exists in the public domain. Consider the case study of Isabella, a high school senior in 2026 from Austin, Texas. Isabella is an exceptional candidate for a high-value community leadership scholarship. She has a 3.9 GPA and hundreds of hours of volunteer work. However, when the selection committee searched for her name, the first 3 results were from a social media account she hadn't updated since middle school, containing content that, while not explicitly offensive, was unprofessional and inconsistent with her current persona as a community leader. Isabella didn't lose the scholarship because of a bad grade. She lost it because her digital trail created a conflict of interest with the foundation's brand. Potential outcomes for students who ignore their digital hygiene often include being quietly disqualified before the interview round even begins. To prevent this, you must conduct a personal digital audit. Start by using the very same operators we discussed in the previous part. Search for your name in quotation marks, then add negative filters for common namesakes. If your name is John Smith, you would search for John Smith, Austin, Texas. Weather news. Look at the images, the social media tags, and even the comments on public forums. In 2026, many students are using tools to set up Google Alerts for their own names, so they are notified the moment new information is indexed. Your goal is not to be invisible, but to be curated. You want the first page of your search results to feature your LinkedIn profile, a professional portfolio, or news articles about your extracurricular achievements. This is the first step in qualifying yourself for the money you are about to find. Once your own house is in order, we must apply that same level of scrutiny to the providers. This is the most critical part of the 2026 masterclass: qualifying the money. In an era where AI can generate a professional-looking foundation website in under 30 seconds, you cannot trust your eyes alone. You must trust the data. In the United States, every legitimate nonprofit organization that awards scholarships is required to file a Form 990 with the IRS. This is a public document that acts as the organization's financial biography. If a website claims to be a foundation but does not have a corresponding 990 filing, it is a significant red flag that the organization may not be a registered 501c3 entity. Imagine you find a promising scholarship from the fictive Apex Educational Trust. The website looks polished, featuring stock photos of happy graduates and a list of impressive corporate partners. Before you spend 4 hours on their essay, you go to the IRS tax-exempt organization search tool, often referred to as TOS. You enter the name of the organization or, even better, their employer identification number, which is usually found in the footer of their website or their privacy policy. When you pull up their most recent 990 filing, you are looking for 3 specific things. First, look at Part 9, the Statement of Functional Expenses. You are looking for line 22, which is labeled Grants and Other Assistance to Domestic Individuals. This is the actual amount of money the organization paid out in scholarships during that fiscal year. In 2026, we see a historical trend where some organizations spend more on marketing and salaries than they do on actual scholarships. If a foundation has $5 million in assets but only paid out $10,000 in scholarships while spending $200,000 on advertising, you are looking at a lead generation machine, not a philanthropic powerhouse. You want to see a healthy ratio of scholarship payouts relative to their total revenue. Furthermore, you should look at Schedule 1 of the 990. This section often lists the number of grants awarded and the average amount of each grant. If the website promises $10,000 awards but the 990 shows they only gave out 10 grants of $500 each, the organization is misrepresenting its potential outcomes. This level of due diligence saves you from the most common trap in the scholarship world: wasting high-value effort on low-liquidity funds. Beyond the IRS, you must also utilize state-level business registries. Every legitimate scholarship provider operating as a corporation or a trust must be registered with the Secretary of State in the state where they are headquartered. If you are applying for a scholarship from a company based in Delaware, you should verify their standing on the Delaware Division of Corporations website. This confirms that the entity is active and legally authorized to conduct business. In 2026, we have seen an increase in ghost foundations that exist only as digital fronts for data harvesting operations based outside the United States. A quick check of the state registry will tell you if the organization has a physical agent and a legitimate legal history. Let us look at a scenario involving a student named Marcus. Marcus found a scholarship for students of Greek heritage. The website was older and difficult to navigate, which usually scares students away. However, Marcus did his research. He found the organization's 990 and saw that they had consistently paid out $50,000 in scholarships every year for the last decade. He also saw that their total number of recipients was only 15 per year. This data told Marcus 2 things: the money was real, and the competition was likely very low because the website was so poorly optimized. Marcus spent his time here because the data proved it was a high probability target. The potential outcomes for Marcus were far better than if he had applied to a shiny modern website with no verifiable 990 history. As we move deeper into 2026, you also need to be aware of the security protocols of these scholarship portals. Never, under any circumstances, should a scholarship application ask for your social security number, your bank account details, or a processing fee. Historical trends in scholarship scams show that the most effective fraudulent schemes are those that ask for a small fee, perhaps $20, to cover the cost of an application review. In the United States, a legitimate scholarship will never charge you money to apply. If you encounter a fee, you are not looking at a scholarship, you are looking at a scam. Additionally, verify the domain security. A legitimate provider in 2026 will use encrypted connections, indicated by the lock icon in your browser, and an HTTPS protocol. If a site is still using unencrypted HTTP, it is a sign that they are not maintaining the security of the personal data you are about to submit. This phase of the masterclass is about moving from a seeker to a skeptic. You are filtering out the noise, the scams, and the low-yield opportunities. You are focusing your energy only on organizations that have a documented history of financial transparency and a proven track record of paying out awards to students just like you. By the time you finish this qualification process, your list of potential scholarships might be smaller, but every single one of them will be a legitimate, high-probability target. You have audited yourself and you have audited the providers. Now, you are ready to build the infrastructure that will allow you to manage dozens of these high-quality applications without burning out. But how do you handle the massive amount of paperwork, deadlines, and requirements that come with these legitimate, high-friction awards? Most students fail not because they aren't qualified, but because they lose track of the details. In the next part, we are going to build the Scholarship Command Center. I will show you the exact digital architecture used by the most successful applicants to automate their tracking, manage their recommendation letters, and ensure that they never miss a deadline. We are going to turn your scholarship search into a high-efficiency production line. And there is one specific tool in this command center that will cut your writing time in half while actually increasing the quality of your essays. We are about to move from research into high-gear execution. The infrastructure of your scholarship search is the primary determinant of whether you will finish the cycle with 20 high-quality submissions or a folder full of half-finished drafts. In 2026, the volume of available funding is matched only by the volume of administrative friction required to access it. To overcome this, you need to build what professional applicants call the Scholarship Command Center. This is not just a simple spreadsheet. It is a synchronized digital ecosystem designed to eliminate decision fatigue and ensure that every document you need is available in under 5 seconds. If you are still hunting through your downloads folder for your transcript every time you start a new application, you are hemorrhaging the time and cognitive energy required to actually win the award. Imagine a student named Tyler in 2026. Tyler is a first-generation college student who has identified 45 legitimate, high-probability scholarships using the advanced search techniques we covered. For the average student, managing 45 different deadlines, essay prompts, and letters of recommendation would be a logistical nightmare that leads to total burnout within 2 weeks. However, Tyler builds a command center using a centralized project management tool, like Notion or a highly customized Airtable base. This hub serves as the brain of his operation. Every scholarship is entered with its specific deadline, the direct URL to the provider's portal, the specific essay word count required, and a status tag that moves from research to in progress to submitted. The first physical component of this command center is the document vault. In 2026, most legitimate providers require a standard set of verification documents. You should have a dedicated, encrypted cloud folder containing high-resolution PDF scans of your most recent official and unofficial transcripts, your FAFSA submission summary, your CSS profile data, a proof of residency document such as a utility bill or state ID, and a professional headshot. Historical trends show that students often miss deadlines because they wait until the last minute to request an official transcript from their registrar's office. By having these documents pre-scanned and verified, you remove the external dependencies that cause most application failures. But the real secret weapon of the command center, the tool that will cut your writing time by more than 50%, is the modular essay system. Most students approach every scholarship as a brand new writing assignment. They see a prompt about community service and start from a blank page. Then they see a prompt about leadership and start from a blank page again. This is the most inefficient way to apply for funding. In 2026, the most successful applicants use a modular approach. They write one master essay that is approximately 1,000 words long and covers 4 core content pillars: your origin story, your primary academic or vocational conflict, your resolution or impact, and your future vision for your community or industry. Once this master essay is polished, you break it down into modular blocks. You create a 250-word version, a 500-word version, and a 100-word elevator pitch for each of those 4 pillars. This allows you to treat the essay portion of an application like a set of Lego blocks. When an application asks for a 300-word statement on your leadership experience, you don't write it from scratch. You pull your pre-written, pre-polished leadership module, make 2 or 3 specific tweaks to align it with the foundation's mission, and you are done in 10 minutes. Case studies of students who have secured over $100,000 in aid show that they rarely wrote more than 3 original essays per season. Instead, they became masters of the modular pivot. Let us look at a case study of a student named Maya in 2026. Maya was applying for 16 different scholarships in the healthcare field. Instead of writing 16 essays, she identified that 80% of the prompts focused on her motivation for entering nursing. She spent a full week perfecting her master essay, ensuring every sentence was high impact and free of cliches. She then created a spreadsheet of her modular blocks. When a local hospital offered a scholarship with a very specific prompt about rural healthcare, Maya took her pre-written motivation module and replaced the middle paragraph with a pre-written module about her experience living in a rural county. Because the core of her essay was already structurally sound and professionally edited, her final submission was significantly higher in quality than if she had rushed to write a specific essay from scratch the night before the deadline. Another critical pillar of your command center is the recommender protocol. One of the most common points of failure in the 2026 scholarship cycle is the third-party delay. You might be ready to submit, but your history teacher hasn't uploaded their letter of recommendation. To solve this, your command center must include a recommender tracking sheet. This includes the name and contact information of at least 4 diverse recommenders: an academic teacher, a community or service leader, a professional or employer contact, and a personal mentor. In 2026, the historical trend is for scholarship committees to favor letters that speak to specific instances of character rather than generic praise. To manage this, you provide your recommenders with a recommender packet. This is a one-page PDF that includes your resume, a summary of the scholarships you are applying for, and 3 to 5 bullet points of specific achievements you had while working with them. This is not about telling them what to write. It is about providing them with the data they need to write a high-impact letter quickly. By making the process easy for them, you ensure that they are more likely to meet your deadlines and provide a higher quality of advocacy for your application. Potential outcomes for students who use this protocol include receiving letters that are far more detailed and persuasive than the standard templates most teachers use. The final layer of the command center is the security and privacy shield. In previous parts, we discussed the dangers of data harvesting. Your command center should include a dedicated, professional email address used exclusively for scholarship applications, something like firstname.lastname.scholarships2026@domain.com. This keeps your primary inbox clean and allows you to easily identify which providers are sharing your data with third parties. If you start receiving loan advertisements at that specific email address, you know immediately which organization to report or avoid in the future. Additionally, you should use a dedicated browser profile or a sandbox environment for your searches and applications to prevent cross-site tracking from the aggregators we identified earlier. Imagine if you treated the scholarship process like a professional job. You clock in, you open your command center, you look at your status tags, and you execute on the modular blocks. You aren't searching for inspiration. You are performing an administrative task. This shift in mindset from artist to architect is what separates the students who get frustrated and quit from the students who systematically collect the funds they need to graduate debt-free. By building this infrastructure, you have removed the friction that stops most of your competition. You have the documents, you have the tracking, and you have the modular writing system that makes you 10 times faster than the average applicant. But even with the most efficient system in the world, the quality of your content still matters. You can have the best Lego blocks in the world, but if the blocks themselves are flawed, the structure will collapse. There is a specific linguistic code that 2026 scholarship committees are looking for. A way of describing your achievements that avoids the traps of humility, while also avoiding the traps of arrogance. There is a method to quantify your life experiences in a way that aligns with the financial rubrics used by major foundations. In the next part, we are going to dive into the rhetoric of the winner. I am going to show you how to take your modular blocks and infuse them with the specific power verbs and impact metrics that force a committee to stop and take notice. We are going to look at the exact psychological triggers that make a scholarship reader move your application from the maybe pile to the award pile. It all starts with the way you frame your struggle, and I am going to show you how to do it without sounding like you are asking for a handout. The transition from a passive applicant to a high-impact winner begins with a fundamental shift in how you perceive the relationship between you and the scholarship committee. In 2026, you must stop viewing yourself as a student asking for a donation and start viewing yourself as a high-potential asset seeking an investment. Scholarship committees are not just checking boxes on a rubric. They are looking for a return on their philanthropic capital. Historically, the students who secure the highest amounts of funding are those who can clearly articulate how their personal goals align with the strategic mission of the donor organization. This is the essence of the rhetoric of the winner. To master this, you must first understand the concept of impact metrics. In 2026, generalities are the enemy of success. When you describe your achievements, you cannot simply say that you were a hard worker or a dedicated volunteer. You must quantify your life. Instead of saying you were a tutor for younger students, you should state that you designed a personalized curriculum for 15 at-risk middle schoolers, resulting in a 40% increase in their average math assessment scores over one semester. This change in language does two things. It provides objective proof of your capability, and it allows the reader to visualize the scale of your influence. Imagine a student named Sarah from Illinois in 2026. Sarah is applying for a scholarship from a regional foundation focused on civic engagement. In her first draft, she wrote that she spent her summers working at a local community garden because she cares about the environment. This is a baseline response that thousands of other applicants will submit. After applying the rhetoric of the winner, Sarah transforms that sentence into a value proposition. She now writes that she spearheaded a community-led irrigation project that reduced water waste by 30% and coordinated a distribution network that provided 200 pounds of fresh produce to local food banks weekly. Sarah has moved from a student with an interest to a leader with a track record. The potential outcomes for Sarah changed instantly because she provided the committee with data points they can use to justify their investment in her. The next pillar of this masterclass is the struggle to strength framework. Many students fall into the trap of trauma dumping, which is the practice of detailing every hardship they have ever faced in hopes of gaining sympathy. In 2026, scholarship readers are often fatigued by stories of pain that lack a clear resolution or growth trajectory. The historical trend in successful applications shows a preference for resilience over mere suffering. When you discuss a struggle, you should use the 20-80 rule. Spend 20% of your essay defining the challenge and 80% of your essay detailing your response, the skills you developed as a result, and how that experience prepared you for the rigors of higher education. Imagine if you were the person reading 500 essays in a single weekend. By the time you get to the 300th essay, you are looking for a spark of agency. You want to see the moment the applicant decided to change their circumstances. If you face financial instability in 2026, do not just describe the lack of resources. Describe how you mastered the art of budgeting, how you work 20 hours a week while maintaining your GPA, and how those time management skills make you a lower risk investment for the foundation. You are not asking for a handout because you are struggling. You are asking for a bridge because you are already moving forward. To execute this, you need to rebuild your vocabulary using the power verb lexicon. Words like helped, tried, and participated are passive. They suggest you were a bystander in your own life. In the 2026 scholarship landscape, you need to use verbs that imply ownership and action. Use words like orchestrated, stabilized, forecasted, pioneered, and modernized. If you were part of a club, you didn't just attend meetings, you modernized the club's digital outreach strategy, leading to a 50% increase in member retention. If you had a part-time job, you didn't just serve customers, you stabilized the inventory management system during a high turnover period. Let us look at a case study of a student named Michael. Michael worked as a cashier at a grocery store throughout his junior and senior years. He initially thought he had nothing to write about for a leadership scholarship. However, we looked at his experience through the lens of impact. Michael had trained 3 new employees and suggested a new checkout flow that reduced customer wait times during peak hours. By framing his grocery store job as an exercise in operational efficiency and mentorship, Michael was able to apply for professional-level business scholarships. The potential outcomes for Michael improved because he translated his everyday labor into the language of corporate leadership. The third psychological trigger you must utilize is donor alignment. Remember the 990 forms we discussed in earlier parts? Those forms tell you what an organization values. If the 990 shows that a foundation primarily funds medical research, your essay should not just be about your desire to be a doctor, it should be about your commitment to the specific type of medical research they support. In 2026, this level of hyper-personalization is the key to bypassing the generic filters. You are looking for the intersection between your story and their history. If the foundation was started by a woman who was the first in her family to graduate college, and you are also a first-generation student, that shared identity should be the cornerstone of your narrative. A powerful tool for this is the So What test. For every sentence you write in your scholarship essay, ask yourself, so what? If you write that you play the violin, the so what might be that it taught you the discipline required to practice 4 hours a day, which is the same discipline you will apply to your organic chemistry labs. If you write that you are the captain of the debate team, the so what is that you have developed the ability to synthesize complex information and communicate it clearly under pressure, a skill essential for your future career in law. If a sentence doesn't have a so what that points toward your future success, delete it. In 2026, there is no room for fluff. By the time a reader finishes your essay, they should feel like they already know you, and more importantly, they should feel like they would be missing out if they didn't fund you. You want to create a sense of inevitability. You are going to succeed regardless of whether you get this scholarship. but their funding will accelerate your impact and allow you to bring others along with you. This is the subtle art of the winner's rhetoric. You are confident but not arrogant. You are resilient but not a victim. And you are quantified but still human. But even with a perfect essay and a high-impact narrative, there is a technical barrier that stops thousands of qualified students every year. In 2026, more and more scholarships are moving away from traditional essays and toward video submissions and digital portfolios. If you try to film a scholarship video the way you film a social media clip, you will likely be disqualified for a lack of professionalism. There is a specific technical standard for 2026 scholarship videos, from the lighting and the background to the specific 3-act structure that keeps a judge watching until the final second. In the next part, we are going to break down the scholarship video blueprint. I will show you how to produce a high-end submission using only your smartphone, and how to script a 60-second pitch that carries more weight than a 3-page essay. We are going to move from the written word to the moving image, and I will show you the exact mistakes that scream amateur to a selection committee. Are you ready to step in front of the camera and claim your spot? In the scholarship landscape of 2026, the application process has undergone a significant visual revolution. Traditional foundations that once relied exclusively on 500-word essays are now increasingly integrating video components into their primary evaluation process. This shift is driven by a documented historical trend where selection committees want to gauge a candidate's communication skills, cultural fit, and authentic passion in a way that static text cannot convey. A video allows you to transcend the two-dimensional limitations of a PDF and present yourself as a living, breathing leader. However, this is precisely where the majority of students falter. They treat a scholarship video like a casual social media story, failing to realize that a grainy vertical video shot in a cluttered environment is the fastest way to signal a lack of professionalism to a board of directors. In 2026, your video is not just a supplement, it is your digital audition. To succeed in this high-stakes environment, your video must meet a specific set of technical benchmarks that distinguish you as a serious applicant. The first and most critical element is audio. Historical trends in digital media production show that viewers have a high tolerance for lower resolution video, but a near zero tolerance for poor audio. If a committee cannot hear your message clearly over background noise or echo, they will mentally check out within the first 15 seconds. You do not need a professional recording studio to achieve high-quality sound. In 2026, a simple $10 wired lavalier microphone or even the microphone on your standard earbuds can provide a much crisper audio profile than the internal microphone on your smartphone. By keeping the microphone close to your mouth and recording in a room with soft surfaces like curtains or carpets to absorb echo, you immediately elevate the production value of your submission. Next, you must master the art of natural lighting. You should never film with a window directly behind you, as this creates a silhouette effect that hides your facial expressions and makes you appear like an anonymous figure in a witness protection program. Instead, you should face a window to utilize soft, natural light. This provides a professional and inviting aesthetic that highlights your eyes and facial engagement without the need for expensive ring lights or professional kits. If you are filming after sunset, use 2 lamps placed at 45-degree angles in front of you to create what is known as 3-point lighting, which eliminates harsh shadows and gives the video a cinematic depth. These small technical adjustments are what committees look for to identify students who possess attention to detail and a high level of personal standards. The architecture of a winning scholarship video in 2026 follows a precise 3-act structure designed for maximum retention. Act 1 is the impact hook. Within the first 10 seconds, you must state your mission rather than just your name. Instead of saying, "My name is Brandon and I am applying for this scholarship," you should start with, "I am dedicated to implementing renewable energy solutions in rural Ohio to reduce local utility costs by 20%. By starting with the result of your work, you immediately justify the committee's time. Act 2 is the evidence block. This is where you provide visual proof of your claims. If you are discussing your work as a tutor, do not just talk to the camera. Overlay footage or high-resolution photos of you in the classroom. This is called B-roll, and in 2026, it is the hallmark of a high-effort application. Showing yourself in action provides a level of transparency that makes your narrative undeniable. Act 3 is the investment pitch. You conclude by clearly stating how these specific scholarship funds will serve as a catalyst for a documented goal. You are not asking for a donation. You are inviting the foundation to participate in a success story that is already in motion. Consider the case study of Brandon, a student in 2026 from a small town in Indiana. Brandon was applying for a high-value innovation grant from a national tech foundation. He had a solid transcript, but his real competitive advantage was a project where he refurbished discarded laptops and distributed them to low-income families in his county. Instead of just writing an essay about it, Brandon filmed a 90-second video. He started by standing in a garage filled with computer parts, showing the process of a repair. He used a simple tripod to keep his camera steady, and edited the clip using free mobile software to include captions. Accessibility is a major historical trend in 2026. Including captions in your video ensures that any member of the committee can follow your message, even if they are reviewing applications in a noisy environment or have hearing impairments. The potential outcomes for Brandon included the full $10,000 award, because his video provided physical proof of his labor and his leadership. Another critical component of your 2026 digital strategy is the integration of your video into a broader digital portfolio. A single video link is powerful, but a link to a curated portfolio is a force multiplier. Platforms like Adobe Express or Canva allow you to create a professional landing page where you can host your video alongside your modular essay blocks, your quantified impact metrics, and your recommendation letters. This creates a one-stop shop for a scholarship judge. Imagine the psychological impact on a reviewer who clicks a link and is greeted by a beautiful, organized interface that showcases your entire academic and professional journey. It signals that you are not just a student, but a professional in training. You must also be aware of the amateur flags that will lead to an immediate disqualification in 2026. These include filming in portrait mode, which is designed for casual social media consumption rather than professional presentation. Always film in landscape mode to match the aspect ratio of the monitors and laptops that committee members use for their reviews. Additionally, avoid reading directly from a script. If your eyes are darting back and forth across a screen, you lose the personal connection with the viewer. Use a teleprompter app on your phone if you must, but place it directly next to the camera lens so you maintain eye contact. The lens is the committee. If you look at the lens, you are looking at the people who hold the keys to your financial future. Look at the case study of Elena, an aspiring educator in 2026. Elena was applying for a state-level teaching fellowship. She filmed her video in the library where she volunteered, using the environment to reinforce her identity as a teacher. She didn't just tell the committee she was passionate. She showed her interaction with the books and the students, demonstrating her classroom presence before she ever stepped foot into an interview room. This demonstrated character and readiness, which are high-priority metrics for educational foundations. By combining technical precision with a high-impact narrative, you are positioning yourself in the top 1% of all applicants. You are moving beyond the noise of the digital age and presenting a professional, verified, and compelling image of your future success. You have used the search operators to find the money, the tax records to verify the provider, the modular system to build your text, and now the video blueprint to bring it all to life. You have built a complete, high-performance application machine. But even with the best video and the most polished portfolio, there is one final hurdle that most students never prepare for. Once you pass the digital rounds, the final step is almost always a live interview or a final verification call. In 2026, these interviews are not just about your resume. They are about your ability to handle pressure and think critically about the industry you are entering. There is a specific set of hidden rubrics that committees use during these final stages to separate the scholars from the applicants. In the next part, we are going to dive into the Scholarship Interview Masterclass. I will show you how to decipher the hidden questions behind the common ones, and how to use the STAR method to deliver answers that are mathematically designed to score highest on a judge's rubric. We are entering the final room, and I am going to make sure you are the most prepared person in it. The final room is not merely a test of your memory. It is a test of your composure and your ability to translate your written excellence into a persuasive human presence. In 2026, the historical trend for high-value scholarship programs involves a final interview stage that functions more like a professional board review than a simple question-and-answer session. The scholarship committee has already verified your transcripts, your tax documents, and your modular essays. They know you are qualified on paper. What they are looking for now is the person behind the data points. They are looking for reliability, social intelligence, and a specific type of professional maturity that suggests their investment will be managed with the utmost stewardship. If you treat this interview like a casual conversation, you are leaving your potential outcomes to chance. To win in 2026, you must utilize the STAR method, which is the industry standard for behavioral interviewing, but you must adapt it specifically for the philanthropic mindset. Imagine a student named Jackson in 2026. Jackson is a finalist for a $20,000 scholarship from a National Aerospace Association. He is sitting in a virtual interview room with 3 senior engineers and a foundation director. They ask him a classic behavioral question. Tell us about a time you had to lead a team through a significant conflict. Most students fail here by being too vague or by blaming others for the conflict. Jackson, however, utilizes the STAR framework: situation, task, action, and result. He sets the scene by describing a specific robotics competition, where the team's primary sensor failed 48 hours before the event. He defines the task as the need to recalibrate the entire navigation system without the original hardware. He details his specific actions, how he organized a late-night coding session, delegated the hardware testing to the electrical leads, and maintained morale by focusing on a simplified mission path. Finally, he delivers the result. The team didn't just compete. They placed in the top 5 and, more importantly, they documented their fail-safe protocols for future years. Jackson's answer is mathematically designed to score high on the committee's rubric because it provides evidence of leadership, problem-solving, and long-term organizational value. To execute the STAR method at a professional level, you must understand the hidden rubrics of 2026. When a committee member listens to your answer, they are often filling out a scorecard that ranks you on a scale of 1 to 5 across specific categories such as communication, ethics, resilience, and alignment. To maximize your score, your actions must always align with the core values of the provider. If the foundation emphasizes community service, your STAR answers should highlight collaborative success. If the provider is a corporate entity focused on innovation, your answers should highlight efficiency, technological adaptation, and calculated risk-taking. Historical trends show that the students who secure the largest awards are not necessarily the smartest in the room, but the ones who are the most aligned with the donor's specific mission. One of the most common pitfalls in 2026 is the "Tell me about yourself" prompt. Most students treat this as a chronological autobiography, starting from their birth and ending at their high school graduation. This is a waste of prime real estate. In a deep dive masterclass, we treat this question as your elevator pitch. You should follow the past, present, future model. Spend 20% of your time on your past accomplishments that built your foundation, 30% on your present academic focus and the impact you are currently making, and 50% on your future vision and how this specific scholarship is the bridge that makes that vision possible. By focusing on the future, you are telling the committee that you are a growth asset. You are showing them that their money isn't just paying for a degree. It is fueling a career that will eventually give back to the industry or the community. Imagine if you were asked the difficult "Why do you deserve this scholarship?" question. This is often a trap designed to see if you fall into the humility trap or the arrogance trap. In 2026, the correct response is neither. You do not talk about your need for the money, as thousands of other students have the same need. Instead, you talk about the potential outcomes of your education. You frame your merit as a matter of alignment. You might say, "I believe I am a strong candidate because my career goals in sustainable agriculture directly mirror this foundation's commitment to food security in the Midwest. I have already demonstrated a track record of impact through my local greenhouse project, and with your support, I can scale that impact by pursuing a degree in biotechnology." You are not saying you are better than other students. You are saying you are the best tool for the foundation to achieve its own goals. In the virtual environment of 2026, tech etiquette is a non-negotiable part of your interview rubric. Historical trends in remote work and education have made committees very sensitive to digital professionalism. This means you must have a stable, high-speed connection, a neutral and well-lit background, and you must maintain eye contact with the camera lens, not the screen. A specific 2026 tip is to use a wired internet connection rather than Wi-Fi to eliminate the risk of lag or dropped calls during a high-stakes answer. Additionally, be aware of the AI-driven background noise cancellation features in modern software. While helpful, they can sometimes clip your audio if you speak too softly. Practice your vocal projection to ensure your STAR answers are delivered with clarity and confidence. We also have to address the critical thinking or ethical dilemma questions that have become more prevalent in 2026. Committees often ask how you would handle a specific ethical situation in your chosen field. For example, if you are a nursing student, they might ask how you would respond if you witnessed a senior staff member violating a protocol. These questions are designed to test your integrity and your understanding of professional standards. The key here is to demonstrate a balanced approach. Show that you can be firm in your ethics while remaining professional and constructive in your communication. You are showing that you are a safe bet, someone who will represent the foundation's brand with honor for decades to come. As the interview winds down, you will inevitably be asked, "Do you have any questions for us?" In 2026, saying no is a disqualifying move. It suggests a lack of genuine interest. Instead, you should have 3 high-level questions prepared that show you have done your due diligence. Ask about the foundation's long-term vision for their scholars, or ask a specific question about a recent project the organization mentioned in their annual report. This shows you are not just looking for a check, you are looking for a partnership. Consider the case study of Chloe from Oregon. Chloe was a finalist for a prestigious environmental law scholarship. At the end of her interview, she asked the panel how the foundation's recent shift toward urban reforestation would impact their scholarship criteria over the next 5 years. This question flipped the script. It showed the committee that Chloe was thinking like a strategist, not just a student. She wasn't just waiting to be picked, she was vetting them as much as they were vetting her. The potential outcomes for Chloe included not just the scholarship, but an invitation to join the foundation's junior board of directors before she even started her freshman year. This level of preparation is what separates the winners from the runners-up. You have the search techniques, the verification tools, the modular writing system, the video blueprint, and now the interview masterclass. You are effectively a professional candidate. But there is one final, overlooked phase of this entire process that occurs after the interview is over. Most students think their job is done when the camera turns off, but in 2026, the post-interview protocol is where the final decision is often solidified. There is a specific way to follow up that keeps you top of mind without being perceived as desperate. In the final part of this series, Part 10, we are going to discuss the closing protocol. I will show you how to write the high-impact thank you note that reinforces your star answers, and how to handle the financial aid coordination once the award letters start arriving. We are going to finish this marathon with a sprint, and I will show you how to ensure that every dollar you win is protected and maximized. We are almost at the finish line. Are you ready to close the deal? The closing protocol is where most students fail to cross the finish line, inadvertently leaving thousands of dollars on the table because they assumed the work ended when the interview concluded. In 2026, the final 5% of the process is what separates those who receive a one-time check from those who secure 4-year, renewable funding. Once the camera turns off or you walk out of the room, you are in a race against the clock to solidify the professional connection you just established. The historical trend in scholarship awarding shows that committees often have a short list of 3 or 4 equally qualified candidates after the interview phase. The deciding factor is frequently the level of stewardship and professional follow-up demonstrated by the applicant. The first step of the closing protocol is the high-impact thank you note. In 2026, a generic thank you for your time email is essentially white noise. To stand out, you must utilize the anchor technique. Within 12 to 24 hours, you must send a personalized communication to each member of the panel. You anchor your message to a specific detail discussed during the interview. For instance, if an interviewer mentioned the foundation's recent expansion into sustainable tech, your note should reference that specific point and perhaps include a link to a relevant article or a brief thought on how that expansion aligns with your own career goals. This demonstrates that you were not just performing, you were engaged in a high-level professional exchange. Consider the case study of James, a student in 2026 from Seattle. James was a finalist for a prestigious regional leadership award. After a grueling 40-minute panel interview, James didn't just send a thank you note. He sent a targeted follow-up that addressed a specific question about his community project that he felt he hadn't fully answered during the session. He provided a one-page PDF summarizing the project's local economic impact over the last 12 months. This extra layer of data, delivered within 18 hours, provided the committee with the final evidence they needed to move his application from the maybe pile to the award pile. Potential outcomes for students like James include not just the funding, but a reputation for thoroughness that follows them into their professional life. Once the award letter arrives in your inbox or portal, you enter the secondary phase of the closing protocol, the verification of terms. In 2026, many students are so excited to see a dollar amount that they fail to read the fine print of the scholarship agreement. You must verify if the award is stackable, or if it falls under the category of a last dollar scholarship. A last dollar scholarship only pays out after all other federal and institutional aid has been applied. If your tuition is already covered by other grants, a last dollar award might only pay for a fraction of what you expected. Furthermore, you must identify the renewal criteria. Most multi-year scholarships in the United States require a specific cumulative GPA, usually between a 3.0 and 3.5, and a minimum number of credit hours per semester. Historical trends show that nearly 30% of renewable scholarships are lost after the first year because students fail to track these specific maintenance requirements. This brings us to the critical issue of scholarship displacement. This is a phenomenon where a university reduces its own institutional aid because you have won an outside scholarship. Imagine you win a $5,000 private award from a local Rotary Club. Some universities will see this extra money and decide to reduce their own grant by $5,000, leaving you with the same net cost and essentially rendering your hard work moot. In 2026, you must be proactive in your communication with the university's financial aid office. You should send a formal request, often called a reevaluation of aid, asking the school to apply your outside scholarship toward your self-help aid first. Self-help aid includes your student loans and your work-study requirements. By shifting the outside scholarship to replace loans rather than university grants, you are maximizing the actual value of the award. Let us look at the scenario of Sophia, a student in 2026 attending a private university in California. Sophia won 3 different local scholarships totaling $8,000. Her university initially tried to displace her institutional grant. Sophia utilized a professional negotiation strategy, providing the financial aid office with her specific scholarship award letters and a letter of support from one of her donors stating that the funds were intended to reduce her debt burden, not to replace university funding. Because she had her documentation in order and approached the office with a professional tone, the university agreed to apply the $8,000 toward her unsubsidized loans instead of her grant. Sophia effectively saved herself $8,000 in future interest-bearing debt through a single week of professional correspondence. The next pillar of the closing protocol involves the tax implications of your awards. Under current United States tax principles, specifically Section 117 of the Internal Revenue Code, scholarship funds used for tuition, fees, books, and required equipment are generally excluded from gross income. However, any portion of a scholarship used for room, board, or travel is considered taxable income. In 2026, the IRS has increased its scrutiny of high-value private awards. To protect your award, you must maintain a dedicated folder of receipts for every educational expense you incur. If you use scholarship money to buy a laptop required for your major, keep that digital receipt. If you pay for lab fees, keep the statement. At the end of the year, you will receive a Form 1098-T from your institution, but it may not capture all your outside scholarship data accurately. Having a clean, audited trail of your expenses ensures that you are not hit with an unexpected tax bill or an audit that could jeopardize your financial standing. Case studies of students who have faced audits show that the primary point of failure is lack of documentation. Consider Marcus, who won a $20,000 scholarship in 2026. He used $5,000 for housing. Because he didn't realize this was taxable, he failed to report it. When the discrepancy was flagged, he had to pay back taxes and interest. If Marcus had treated his scholarship like a professional business grant, he would have set aside a small percentage of that housing portion for the tax liability, or better yet, ensured he utilized as much as possible for non-taxable qualified expenses first. Beyond the financials, the closing protocol requires long-term donor stewardship. In 2026, philanthropy is increasingly about the relationship. Every 6 months, you should send a brief, professional update to your scholarship providers. Tell them about the classes you are taking, a project you are working on, or how their investment has allowed you to join a specific research lab. This is not just about being polite, it is about building a network. Many scholarship donors are high-net-worth individuals or corporate executives who are looking for future talent. Historical trends suggest that a student who maintains a consistent, professional relationship with their donor is 10 times more likely to receive an internship offer or a job referral from that same organization. You are turning a one-time transaction into a lifelong professional asset. Imagine if every student approached their education with this level of administrative precision. The debt crisis would look very different. You have now completed the 10-part masterclass on finding and securing legitimate scholarships in the USA. You have the tools to search like a detective, verify like an auditor, write like a winner, and film like a professional. You have the systems in place to manage the chaos and the rhetoric to win the room. The only variable left is your execution. The money is out there, sitting in accounts, waiting for a student who is disciplined enough to do the work that others are too lazy to do. You are that student. You have the blueprint. As you move forward into your collegiate career, remember that the skills you learned here, research, verification, modular writing, and professional communication, are the same skills that will allow you to navigate the world of graduate school funding, venture capital, and career advancement. This was never just about the scholarships, it was about the professionalization of your future. But while we have solved the problem of finding the money, there is another looming challenge that 2026 students are facing: the hidden costs of college that no scholarship covers. In our next series, we are going to dive into the secret economy of campus life, showing you how to navigate the predatory pricing of textbooks, the housing market of university towns, and how to build a six-figure network while you are still in the dorms. The journey doesn't end here. It is just shifting into high gear. I will see you in the next deep dive.